How is everyone? Wonderful. I need a little more. Good? Yes, all right. Thank you, thank you. So I want to start by telling you a typical Silicon Valley story, and that is my story. And I know sometimes you guys hear about all these stories that happen in cafes and people run into people. Well, mine is similar to that. In 2004, I graduated with my master's in fine arts in painting. And I'm showing you some of the work that I'm still doing to this day. And that was my passion. It is my passion. I'm an artist at heart. I started teaching art at the San Francisco Art Institute. I exhibited my work around the world. And I was a successful artist. And what that means is that you can pay your bills. Pretty much that's a successful artist. If you're able to work and pay your bills, that's all you can really ask for. But in 2011, there was a big disruption in my life. And I had to find a job that not only paid my bills, but also helped me support my 3 children. And so I went out into the world of my friends and community and asked people, if you hear of anything that you think I would be good at, if you talk to people, let me know. This is kind of what I'm looking to do. And I was really looking to work maybe at a museum. I wanted to somehow bring together my love of art with a more, linear path. And a good friend of mine sent me this email. She actually forwarded it to me, and she was on a blog, and this is what it said: nonprofit based in San Francisco, looking for event planner, please apply. And it was a Gmail address, so it's not like I could even figure out who these people were. And so I attached my resume and I sent it. An hour later, I get a phone call. And a woman calls me. She's like, "Hi, we just got your resume. I'm calling from the nonprofit. Do you mind if I ask you a few questions before I tell you what we're all about?" And I said, "Okay, yeah, sure." And she says, "Well, do you know who Peter Thiel is?" I was like, "No." "Well, do you know what Facebook is?" "Yeah, I know it, but I don't use it. Now you have to understand, this is the technology I was using, okay? And which I still love, and I love that sound that it makes. And I still have one of these machines in my garage, unfortunately. But yes, I do have one of them. And then the woman asked me, "Well, do you know what PayPal is?" And I'm like, I've heard of it, but I'm not sure. And she's like, "Okay, well, I'm calling from Peter Thiel's office, and Peter Thiel is the founder of PayPal, first investor in Facebook, and a unicorn in Silicon Valley." And she tells me about his whole history, which I'm like, wow, this guy's cool, not knowing who he really is. And I was not attached to the tech world at all. And so she asked me about my background, asked me to come and interview. And I interviewed with people at the Thiel Foundation, interviewed for about 5 minutes with Peter, and 3 days later was hired to work on the Thiel Fellowship. And this is a nonprofit that Peter Thiel started to kind of disrupt the educational system in the United States. And this fellowship offered $100,000 and all the connections in Silicon Valley to 20 people under 20 years old to work on their project. And the only caveat was you could not go to college while you worked on your project. You had to work on it full time. And this then started to roll into people saying that Peter Thiel doesn't want you to go to college, or college isn't the right path. But what it really did was start a conversation about education in America, where students today owe $1.3 trillion in student debt, and really asking the question, is the path of a college degree or master's degree really the only path to success? Does one size fit all? Which we all know, one size does not fit all. And so when they offered me the job, and I was like, well, what's the job? And they go, to be creative. That's what we need you to do. We need someone who can be creative. Also at the time, I was working at the fellowship when Peter was writing his book, 0 to 1. And this is a great quote from the book. It says, doing what we already know how to do takes the world from 1 to n, adding more of something familiar. But every time we create something new, we go from 0 to 1. The act of creation is singular, as is the moment of creation. And the result is something fresh and strange. Fresh and strange. The other word that really pops out for me here is creation. And obviously, you know, as a creator of paintings and art, this is what popped out. And you heard Jeff speaking earlier about the fixed mindset and the growth mindset. And I'd like to add another word there, and the creative mindset, and how that is just as important in this world as it's ever been. So now I'm going to turn around and talk about this idea of disruption and innovation, but in a way that I can do it best, and that's through art history. So we're going to take a little quiz. It only works if you all answer the questions. Does anybody know who this painter is? You can say no if you don't know who he is. No, okay. Does anyone know who this painter is? This is Solomon J. Solomon and Bouguereau. These were the two most famous painters in Europe during the 1800s. Solomon J. Solomon pretty much got the Nobel Prize for painting, okay? They were wealthy, they were honored, they were, you know, their talents came from God himself or herself. And nobody here knew who they were. Who's this? Van Gogh. I think more of you knew that than actually yelled back at me. And who's this? Monet. These two painters painted at exactly the same time as Solomon J. Solomon and Bouguereau. Exactly the same time. These painters were considered crazy. This was fresh and strange, if you could say, you know, this is fresh and strange. I love this quote from Van Gogh because, to me, this is his way of saying 0 to 1. Instead of trying to reproduce exactly what I see before me, I make more arbitrary uses of color to express myself more forcefully. You can go back and look at Solomon J. Solomon, and you can see who he was looking at. All right, this is his 1 to n. He was looking at Van Dyck. And you can look at Van Dyck and see who he was looking at, and it was Rubens. And you can look at Rubens and see who he was looking at, and he was looking at Michelangelo. And finally, you can see who Michelangelo was looking at, his teacher, Ghirlandaio. And I added this last painting in because Ghirlandaio worked a lot in perspective. So there's a foreground, middle ground, and background. And you can kind of see how most of these paintings all have a foreground. But in the end, Samson really did a painting that had a foreground, middle ground, and background with features. And you can see the evolution, can't you? You can see it. And then one day, this happens. I mean, really think about it. These are the paintings that you've seen for centuries, and all of a sudden, they're these guys. This was insanity. This was crazy. This is like the internet, right? This is like an iPhone that has the same amount of power as our rocket ships had in the 60s that Jeff talked about. And so this is my way of showing you as visually fresh and strange, creativity. What is disruption? This is disruption. And disruptors, this is 0 to 1. They are the ones who are remembered. you all knew who these people were, and we're used to now seeing them on coffee cups and mugs and posters and calendars, but at the time, this was crazy. So to come back around, working for Peter, coming to Singularity University, here I am now, a woman who still has her master's in fine arts, kind of coming back around to embracing education in a totally different way, working with partners around the world and putting on summits around the world like this. This is our 13th summit, and next week we will be in Peru. And really embracing a different way of learning, and also embracing that education is a lifelong experience. At SU, we kind of are at the crossroads of technology, impact, and business, and our alumni are close to over 21,000, representing 110 countries. You are all now alumni of SU, and we welcome you into the community, and we want you to take everything that you're learning here in the next 2 days and really try to implement these ideas and talk about these ideas. I'm going to end with a story that actually just happened to me. I'm a good storyteller. A month ago, I was at the South African Summit, and a group of us, the weekend before the summit, went on safari, which is like one of those amazing lifetime experiences. And you'll recognize there's David Roberts and Stacy Ferreira, who will be here speaking tomorrow. And so we're all excited. You see those Jeeps in the background. We get in those Jeeps. We drive out for the 3 o'clock safari that's supposed to go from 3 to 7 o'clock, where you see the sunset, you see the animals at night, and then you come back in. And we go out, and lucky enough, we got to see lions. And it was this beautiful pack of lions, 2 males, several females, the little cubs. Oh my God, it was just, and they were literally where I am in the front row that's where the lions were. And I'm sitting in an open Jeep, and I cannot believe that I'm this close to a wild lion. And a few minutes go by, and we start driving away, and the clouds start coming in. And mind you, it hasn't rained in the bush here for 2 years. And all of a sudden, we feel droplets on us, and swear to God, 10 seconds later, hail starts falling, size of marbles. And it is falling so hard that we're taking the blankets, we're covering ourselves, but it hit us so hard that by the time I got back, I had little dots of bruises on my arms and legs. And they had to stop the truck. We couldn't see anything. We can't leave the truck because there's lions out there. And we sat there for over an hour, just in the hail. And you go through all these emotions. You're like, okay, this is kind of cool. All right, now I'm soaking wet. Okay, now I'm stuck in the middle of nowhere. Does anyone know where I am? Like, what's going to happen to me? It really was a momentous and an experience that I will not forget. We finally come back to the lodge, and this is the main lodge where they were holding up the doors of the tent so that they wouldn't fly in. When we walked back into the lodge, there were all these glass tables around the tents, and they were all broken by the hail. This is how insane this hailstorm was. And we all go, we dry off, we come back into the lodge to have dinner, and the group of us are sitting around the table. And for the next 3 hours, what do you think we talked about? The experience we just went through. And we were all there. We all experienced pretty much the same thing, and yet for 3 hours, we just kept repeating and thinking and how we felt and sharing that experience together. And I was sitting back and seeing this and wondering, like, why do we as humans do this? Why do we keep kind of reliving these experiences and talking about them? And I realized that I've been working with most of these people for well over 2 years, these speakers that I was on the trip with. And it was that night where I truly got to know them, where I truly understood how they felt about certain situations. The reason I'm telling you this story is because the next 2 days, minus the hailstorm, are going to be incredible. You're going to be learning so many things. And as Jeff said, please try to keep an open mindset. Please really try to take all of this in and talk about it. And don't just talk about it out there while you're networking, but once it's over, go home, talk to your kids about it, talk to your coworkers about it, talk about these great and interesting ideas that you've heard, because you are now the ambassadors to think more creatively. I love this picture because for me, it's a way of saying embrace the fresh and strange, embrace disruption, and I wish you all a wonderful time here. I'm telling you, you're going to have a wonderful 2 days. So thank you so much for coming, and please find me during networking because I would love to talk to any of you. Thank you very much.